Okay, my question has been answered. That's a bear up there. So why are you still going towards it? Well, usually they're not very threatening. I didn't even know there were bear in these woods, but it makes sense. Let's zoom in, see if we can get him. I can't see my zoom. You see him? Holy shit. I've been hiking back here making videos forever. All right, but boy, he's a big sucker, isn't he? What'd you think of that? Boy, I was gonna wait to start the video, but that's only my third encounter with a bear here in Florida. Luckily, it looks like he went off into the woods. At least I hope he did. I was gonna turn around and take another trail, but I know that trail that loops back rather than going forward. And I wanted to get to the picnic table today. I just hope that bear ain't hungry. All right, watching the world burn, watching the world burn. June 15th, 2026. Let's get into it. Well, if you can't tell, I brought a lot of water along today. It's a hot day here in Florida, but luckily it's overcast. And it's getting into the evening. When I started, I had a slight breeze, but nothing now. And the only reason I'm making this segment of the video is I'm hoping my voice will let that bear know I'm here and he'll stay in the woods. Usually they don't bother you, but I mean, occasionally I guess there's a bear attack, but most of the time only if they're protecting their cubs, and I didn't see any cubs. So, all right. What'd you think of that video up front? Besides the bear, that was after my intro. I just wanted to put that in. Somebody posted that. I thought it was cute. I think that was JP Sears. He's a comedian who made that video. And anyway, just expressed how I feel making these videos sometimes. So sorry I haven't made a video in a while. I've been working around the house and working on the video studio. I know you're tired of hearing about that, but I always try to give you a tip up front in the video. One of the things about Florida is, and I never knew this, is the bugs. The bugs are unbelievable down here. Now, I'm sure if you visited Florida, most everybody in the nation has, except maybe some people a lot further away. You've had some sort of encounter with mosquitoes or bugs and everything, but when you have a house in a community, you think, okay, you know, my house should be pretty safe. No, these little roaches, or they call them water, I don't know what they're called, pimento bugs or something like that. They can just flood your house, you know, and then of course, the reason why I'm talking about bugs was I got two bug stories for you, and one I've solved, and the other one's just cute. So I had these little gnats, or I don't know, you might call them fruit flies, but I had no fruit. See, whenever I carve a watermelon or a cantaloupe, I throw the rinds out in my garden because it makes good mulch. If you didn't know that, that's why I grow a garden, grow a garden, grow a garden. It gives you a place to dispose of stuff. Because if you put those rinds in the fruit down in your trash can, you will get fruit flies because they come out of the fruit. Anyway, short story long, they were infesting my house. Now, I have in Florida, it's almost mandatory. I have a bug service. They come on a regular basis. You pay for it. I pay for it one time a year. And then they come periodically throughout the year and treat my house. And it works great. I'll go out in the garage and you'll see them roaches upside down. Because I guess what they do is when they drag through the pesticide, then they lick their legs and it kills them. But it doesn't work on spiders. We're going to get to that in a minute after we talk about the fruit flies. So I tried to, I have this organic drain cleaner. Because if you didn't know, if you put Drano down your drains, it will hurt the pipes. It's pretty corrosive. I mean, it'll get the clog out, no doubt about it. But it's kind of like using Roundup to kill weeds, You can get cancer from that. Just saying. That's why I use what I use to kill my weeds is you put salt with 30 or 40% vinegar and just mix it together, and then put it in a spray bottle. You can take that out and spray it on the weeds, and it does a great job. You know, just as good as Roundup, but then you don't have to worry about getting cancer from vinegar and salt. Just saying, and throw out another tip. Anyway, so I treated those drains because they told me to do that. They said that's more than likely where the bugs are coming from. It worked somewhat. They still kept coming. So then, you know, I'm keeping the house super clean because I gotta, you know, I don't want these bugs getting on, you know, food left on the counter after I've eaten, or a dirty plate. And then of course I went at the garbage disposal, pulled out the, you know, the little rubber stopper, cleaned the hell out of that. You know, even threw some Clorox down the drain, which you're not supposed to do. And yeah, like I said, it was a battle back and forth, but I never did solve the problem. So finally, I'm watching this YouTube video, this Amish guy. He says he's Amish. I'll take him at his word. We are where the bear was right now. Just gonna pause for just a second, look around. I don't see anything. Huh. Well, let's hope he's long gone. All right. Whew. I could take this trail right here. Let me show you. And then I could connect and hike, because the bear went that way. But like I said, we don't see him, so what the hell, we'll just continue on this way. All right. Sorry, I got off on a tangent. Well, anyway, he recommended taking hydrogen peroxide and pouring a half a cup down each drain, you know, and you'll get that fizz sound. Let it sit in there for about 15, 20 minutes or longer, and then, you know, let it do its job, and then flush it with hot water. And so I said, well, shit, man, nothing else has worked. Let's give it a try. Boom, boom, boom. Oh yeah, we dropped the boom. No more of those bugs flying around. When I say no more, I mean, there's still a few left, but it was intolerable before. Now it's just kind of, I'm not even sure it's the same bugs. They seem to be a lot smaller than the ones that I had before, you know. So anyway, probably no-see-ums would be my guess is what these other bugs may be. They probably slip in when I open the door from time to time, not coming from the drains like it was. Anyway, so that's my tip of the day. We're going to kind of dedicate this video to the Empress Tulsi Gabbard. She dropped a bombshell. I wanted to talk about, I mean, I had some friends, they hate Russia for some strange reason. I never really gave Russia much thought. Of course, I was in the military during the Soviet Union days, and I always thought the Soviet Union was the evil empire, and that's all we did was prep to take on the Soviet Union day after day as a Marine, especially out in the desert. You know, and I always thought, you know, I'd end up fighting the Russians someday. So, but I never, I mean, I've met a couple Russians when I worked at the NSA, and they were pretty cool dudes. You know, I had nothing against them. I mean, you know, just because they were Russian. I'm surprised the NSA, maybe they were testing me out because I was getting my top secret SBI clearance at that time. Anyway, so I was trying to explain to him, I said, look, we promised Russia back in the 90s that we wouldn't expand NATO any closer to Russia. You know, NATO was supposed to be just a defense alliance in case the Soviet Union decided to invade Europe. And, which, you know, I don't think they ever had any ambitions of doing that, or maybe we deterred them, who knows. But, so anyway, what do? We kept expanding NATO, Finland, Sweden, the Baltic states. And then finally, the final nail in the coffin was we staged the Maidan coup in 2014. I'm sure you've heard all about this on other videos. Victoria Nuland was there. John McCain was there when we overthrew the Ukrainian government. And then you know, of course, the Russians are looking at all this. They know exactly what's going on. And then we just started weaponizing Ukraine. And we were going to eventually use that as a bludgeoning arm Well, we're well past where the bear was. Thank God. There's a bludgeoning arm to attack Russia, which you could say ultimately we did more or less in the end. But I mean, look at all we've spent. Well, we just sent another $9 billion to Ukraine. Good thing that the American people come last, as far as the Congress and President Trump go. But and then of course we gave all our weapons. That's why I think this peace deal. I'm not going to talk too much about this new peace deal with Iran, whether it actually happens or not. I'm very skeptical. Looks to me like both sides are pretty far apart. But I don't think we had a choice, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But let's get the Tulsi story. Well, I'm still on the Tulsi story. So Russia, I got the video. I think I got the video. Back in the day, they accused us of having bioweapons labs in Ukraine, and everybody said that's a conspiracy theory. And when I tried to tell everybody, oh, that cybersecurity guy, you're full of crap, man. Nobody listens to you. Nobody watches your videos. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess not. So, and then, of course, we'll start first with the video from Lushenko. Well, no, let's wait on that one. Let's get Tulsi completely out of the way. So we got one from Putin.
Обвинения Российской Федерации. В связи с тем, что нам удалось остановить реализацию военно-биологических программ на освобожденных территориях Украины, Пентагон вынужден переносить незавершенные в рамках украинских проектов исследования в другие регионы. В настоящее время в зону повышенного интереса попала Африка. Мы уже отмечали деятельность ключевых подрядчиков Пентагона на африканском континенте, в Демократической Республике Конго, Сьерра-Леоне, Камеруне, Уганде и ЮАР. Заказчиками со стороны американского правительства являются Управление по снижению угрозы Минобороны США ДИТРА и Госдепартамент. Для сокрытия целей проводимых исследований Вашингтон задействует сторонних исполнителей. Это подрядная и посреднические организации Метабиота, Квиксильвер, Эко-Холл-Альянс, всего более 20 компаний, а также предприятия так называемой Биг Фармы. Обратите внимание на коммерческое предложение компании Метабиота с пометкой «Конфиденциально». Она адресована научно-исследовательскому институту инфекционных болезней сухопутных войск США и касается подготовки специалистов по инфекционным болезням в Кении и Уганде. Документ демонстрирует, что изучением патогенов в странах африканского континента занимается Управление Минобороны США по снижению угрозы ДИТРА, Министерство внутренней безопасности, а также для придания видимости взаимодействия с Агентством США по международному развитию. Напомню, что в настоящее время деятельность компании Метабиота прекращена на территории Африки, так как методы ее работы стали вызывать слишком много вопросов на уровне национальных правительств. Так, в 2014 году образцы вируса Эбола были незаконно вывезены представителями компании и переданы в НИИ инфекционных болезней сухопутных войск США. На слайде также приведены участники незаконной военно-биологической деятельности. Среди них бывшие военнослужащие из США и Великобритании, сотрудники Центров по контролю и профилактике заболеваний в Африке, представители Глобального фонда по борьбе со СПИДом, туберкулезом и малярией. Имеющиеся в нашем распоряжении документы подтверждают, что военно-биологическое присутствие США на африканском континенте наращивается быстрыми темпами. Так, в октябре 2023 года сотрудники Института инфекционных болезней сухопутных войск США провели в природных очагах на территории Кении масштабное исследование хантавирусов с отбора проб от летучих мышей. Годом ранее американские военные биологи США изучали на местном населении воздействие противомалярийных препаратов. В январе 2024 года американские чиновники из Минобороны, Госдепа и Министерства здравоохранения провели встречу с руководителями Африканского центра контроля заболеваний.
Got to that. Okay. That was the Putin video. I don't know if that's kind of an old, might be an old video. I don't remember when he gave that statement. Now we got the Tulsi Gabbard video. Now, I know that you're saying, boy, everybody's already talked about it. It's up on X and 16 different X accounts. You can watch the whole video. Everybody posted and reposted and everywhere. Well, I put a different little twist. There's two things I wanted to get out of the way. Number one, nobody plays the whole video. They always show you a cut from the video and then they talk about it and what a bombshell it is. Well, I went out and I might generate some more. And I found all these AI images of Tulsi Gabbard. And because people were posting all kinds of AI of her after she put that bombshell up. By the way, people are asking, why did she do it? Well, she's on her way out. She's going to be out at the end of the month. So I imagine she's just trying to do the right thing. I tell you what, she's got my vote. I hope she runs for president. But anyway, so I put together a montage of AI images on top of her speaking. I thought it was pretty entertaining. Let's watch that now.
After months of searching through intelligence community holdings and files, today I'm releasing new evidence of long-standing U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens and remained vulnerable to long-standing threats of Russian attack, seizure, or damage. Now, until now, evidence regarding the full existence and funding of these laboratories had been knowingly withheld from you, the American people. Many of these U.S. government-funded biolabs are currently or have previously engaged in research using hazardous and highly contagious pathogens, and in some cases included dangerous gain-of-function research with very little visibility or oversight. Now, President Trump clearly understands the serious threat dangerous gain-of-function research poses to the American people. And this is why he took decisive action over a year ago. On May 25th, 2025, he signed an executive order to end federal funding of gain-of-function research around the world. Here at ODNI, I issued new guidance to the intelligence community directing increased collection on these laboratories and facilities overseas. And we're already seeing the results of this increased collection. We're learning new details, for example, on clinical trials that are underway at these facilities and that are raising significant ethical, financial, and security concerns regarding the supposed public health initiatives and U.S. national security. Now, despite the obvious potential for catastrophic global impact that research on dangerous pathogens in biolabs can have, politicians and so-called health professionals like Dr. Fauci, as well as entities within the Biden administration's national security team, lied repeatedly to the American people about the existence of U.S.-funded and supported biolabs. Not only did they lie, they threatened those who attempted to expose the truth. So this release today breaks new ground, as the information surrounding the existence, history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by very powerful people who falsely claimed that these biolabs didn't exist. Now, they accuse anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors to America. Now, ODNI will continue working closely with partners across the U.S. government to identify exactly where these labs are and what pathogens they contain to end dangerous gain-of-function research that threatens the health and well-being of the American people and people around the world.
All right. Wasn't that great? Those are some great images, aren't they? When I get home, I thought of one. I want to put her, I'm going to say, show me, ask Grok, show me Tulsi Gabbard as a Roman soldier, and let's see if we can get something. And I'll add to the, obviously, if you just watched it, if I found it, then it would have been in the video you just saw. Speaking of AI, before we get into the depressing topics of Israel and, continue with Ukraine, I wanted to talk about using AI again. You're like, oh my God, you keep beating this topic. Well, I'm still working on the video studio. And one of the things, I've pretty much got everything I need to mount the discs. If you didn't know my layout, I have 4 M2 drives, 2 Crucial, 1 Samsung, and I can't remember the other one. 2 8 terabytes and 2 4 terabytes. And then I have a 56 gigabyte RAID of the Seagate, the NAS drives for my archive. And it's a lot of work setting all that up because you got to mount all those mount points. Of course, installing the operating system is the easiest part, which is kind of ironic. Now configuring and setting everything up in the operating system. So yeah, the first thing I worked with Grok was getting the mount points all situated. And if you're just a normal computer user, this doesn't concern you. But what will concern you is your directory layout, okay? You know, if you do have more than one drive, which most computers these days do, you know, you're gonna wanna lay your OBS Studio, your DaVinci Resolve, your Handbrake, your email, what else? All of your video editing, like if you use KDen Live, if you're gonna run virtual machines, you know, you gotta come up with a directory structure for all of that, and you wanna spread it across all of your drives for maximum performance. That's a hell of a lot of work. You know, and of course, once you install any of these applications, you got to go in and configure the application to use your new directory layout. So you don't want to have to be going back and tweaking that directory layout again and again. So I've been working with Grok on that. And what was happening was, and because I wanted to talk about using AI, was I kept asking Grok, I said, well, what directories do you recommend for DaVinci Resolve when, you know, given that I have these 4 M2 drives in the archive? And he would give me I say he, I mean the AI, but I call it a he. He would give me his recommendations, and then I'd say, okay, well, what about this? What about using Handbrake? Can you give me some directories for that? What about using OBS Studio? Can you give me some directories for that? And I wanted him spreading it across the thing. So finally, Grok came up and he goes, would you like for me to write a bash script? Bash, if you didn't know, is the shell. Whenever you have a terminal, you know, you wouldn't be able to do this unless you know a little bit about Linux or Unix, whatever. And I said, yeah, give me a script. And it wrote a really good script, but it was missing things. So then I go back to Bash and I say, Bash, you didn't put any DaVinci Resolve entries in there. And so then he would come back with the script, and I'd say, oh, that's good. And I would just cut and paste the script, thinking that, you know, he just added it. And then, of course, you know, I go back and I start tweaking the script, and all of a sudden, the directory structure that I had for, let's say, OBS Studio is gone in the script. And I said, well, Bash, why did you remove the OBS Studio? And, you know, add that back in. And then he would give me a script, and I'd look at it, and I'd cut it, paste it, thinking I got it all situated. The DaVinci Resolve stuff disappeared. So then I said, well, wait a minute, Bash, I'm not seeing the Handbrake or the DaVinci Resolve directory structure. Give me that. And then, so this went on, because I was tired, it was late at night. I don't know about you. I do this while I watch TV. I just sit on the laptop and talk to Grok, and, you know, that's why commercials, I don't mind commercials. It gives me a minute or two to sit there and just work on things on the laptop. Anyway, what I'm finding is using AI, it's not an additive type of thing. You ask the question, and it doesn't, you know, it'll answer your question, but then it'll erase all the stuff that you had before. So finally, and I was actually working on this before I came out today. What I did was I went back and I looked at all of his suggestions, and then of course, you know, I had a final version of the script, and of course I want to add in some of my directories. Like, I keep all my files under my name on the computer. I don't use a folder like documents or personal. Well, personal is the one that Grok recommended. You know, I just use my name. Now, back when I was married, the reason I did that is because I would have my wife's name for her files, and then I had my name for my files. And plus I hang that off of the root drive on a laptop or whatever. You know, I don't want it buried down, you know, 16 layers under the users, you know, whatever, where you got to go through the Microsoft interface to get to your files. You know, I just want to be able to click on C:, and boom, and there's my name, and all my files are right there, just to give you a clue about how I lay out my directories. So anyway, I just went back, and I'm still in the process of doing it, and combined all of the directories. Now, I'm repeating a lot of those directories on multiple drives, because I'm going to see how, you know, give me a lot of different ways to lay things out once I get into everything. All right, that's it on the video studio. I've been talking about AI and Grok. Well, no, that's not it on the video studio. I wanted to talk about one more thing. I talked in the last video, I bought a Brother laser printer, which was what Grok recommended for Linux, and to to use for black and white printouts. But I kind of looked around the house and I said, damn, I got no place to put it. And I thought, well, I guess I could go to one of those used furniture stores and pick up a table to put it on or something like that. But then I said, let's go see what Amazon's got. And by the way, speaking of Amazon, I ordered a bag of organic Miracle-Gro mulch for my lemon tree. And when I compared the price to what was at Home Depot or at Walmart, which is questionable whether they got it in stock. A lot of times I get there and they don't have it, and try getting them on the phone to find out if they do have it. But so I just went ahead and ordered it from Amazon. So you can still buy your mulch from Amazon. All right, getting to the table. So I was looking at all these computer tables, and I found this one. It's huge. I'd say actually it arrived today. I got to put it all together. Whoa, shit, that's an armadillo. I guess seeing that bear's got me all jumpy, man. Especially was I tripping. I would have got him on the video. He was right in front of me, man. Oh, whoa, he's still right there. Let's get him on the video. You see him? See him right there? Yeah, I almost bumped right into him. Holy moly, this is a day of deer, bear, armadillos, and there's a bird. I don't know if we'll get him on the video. God dang. Something's up for this video. Where was I? Oh, I was talking about this table. Well, what's cool is it's got, 2 shelves and storage, and what's going to be nice is, right now my inkjet printer is in my office on the desk. It takes up a lot of room on the desk. And, it's just, it's convenient to have the printer right there, because if you do a printout while you're sitting at the server, but I find that I do a lot of my printouts from the laptop. So I thought, well, wait a minute. I got Wi-Fi. I used to have the printer hooked up to Wi-Fi, but it's so close to the router, I went ahead and just plugged it in. So if I move it, I'll have to go back to Wi-Fi. That might present some problems. But I got that color laser printer, and there is no place to put it in my office. So I got to use that with Wi-Fi 100%. And so I bought this table. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the laser printer on there and the color inkjet printer. And that way all my printers are in one spot. And if I'm doing black and white, I send it to the brother printer. And if I'm doing a color printout, I send it to the inkjet printer. Best of both worlds, right? And plus it gives me a lot more desk room, because I can move the inkjet printer out of the office. Now you couldn't do this if you're married, because the printers are going to be sitting right in my Florida room. You know how women are. If you have company over, they don't want your computer equipment right there next to the TV where everybody's watching the football game, or whatever it is that you're having cocktails, and everybody's sitting around a couple of printers in your Florida room. Anyway, enough on that. So I had another video on Tulsi Gabbard. I'll just stick it in right here. I don't remember what it was right now.
Russia has a history also of inventing outright lies like this, which is the suggestion that the United States has a chemical and biological weapons program, or Ukraine does, that they're operating. Russia is the country that has a chemical and biological weapons program. So the objective was to make clear the inaccuracy of the information, the misinformation they're trying to put out, and make clear to the world that they not only have the capacity, they have a history of using chemical and biological weapons, and that in this moment we should have our eyes open for that possibility.
Today, I'm releasing new evidence of long-standing U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens, as the information surrounding the existence, history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by very powerful people who falsely claimed that these biolabs didn't exist. Now, they accused anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors to America.
Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now let's get to Israel. I'm just going to keep putting these videos in right away now. We got Lushenko talking about Israel, and I thought he had some good comments here. Let's watch that video.
Израиль не та страна, которая обладает колоссальными ресурсами, как, допустим, Россия в конфликте с Украиной, чтобы воевать с Ираном. Тем более, что Израиль окружен мусульманским миром. Да, он разнороден, мусульманский мир сегодня. Они не могут договориться, у них нет этого единства. Но кто его знает? Я всегда говорю, что война непредсказуема. Она может развернуть события в таком направлении, которое в мирное время трудно предсказать. Поэтому здесь надо Израилю быть поаккуратнее, поосторожнее. Они уже так в мировом сообществе получили такой рейтинг, что дальше некуда, разбомбив Газу. Даже в историю многие посмотрели. Какой Холокост? Какой может быть Холокост, о котором израильтяне говорили, когда они убили столько людей, и прежде всего женщин и детей? Детей ведь в Газе погибло много. Там вообще все стерли с лица земли. Какой-то курорт собираются на костях людей построить. Это же глупость полная. Поэтому Израилю тоже надо взять, как у нас говорят, голову.
All right, so we're getting to the sit-down portion of the video, and we're going to talk about Ukraine just a minute, and that'll be it for the video today. Hope you enjoyed it. You know, I don't want to just talk about war, you know, the stupid peace deal that I don't think is a peace deal. If that war doesn't restart, I'm going to be shocked. You know, Israel's already said they're not backing out of Lebanon. You know, and then of course, I got another video for you. Israel set fire to a camp in Palestine. Let's watch that camp burn right now. Yep, they're still genociding the Palestinians. Okay, we'll get to the sit down here in just a sec. All right, let's get the sit down reading portion of the video out of the way. I forgot to finish the bug story. So I was taking a shower, and there was a spider, pretty big, maybe about that big. And, you know, he was laying there. I thought, well, he looked dead. You know, he was all curled up and everything. I said, okay, so I'm just taking my shower. I said, you know, I'd better wash that spider down the drain. So I threw back the curtain. He's kind of behind the curtain. Hit him with the hot water. He jumped up in the air, scared the bejeebies out of me, man. Turns out he was alive. I'm looking, oh my God, you know, and I'm spraying. I finally got him down the drain. Oh my God, I hate spiders. I don't mind snakes, but spiders just scare the hell out of me. Let's get into, yeah, we already showed you this video, but I'll read you what it says. Israeli settlers burned Palestinian village in revenge for Trump's Iran peace deal. Israeli settlers just torched multiple villages in the West Bank. That's how they act when diplomacy and peace threatens their bloodthirsty ways. We already showed you the Lushenko video. There's a whole description there, but we're getting a little long in the tooth here. By the way, I have some Lego videos, if I can squeeze them in. Yeah, I try to keep these videos about an hour long. So if I get home and it's only an hour, we'll do it. But I wanted to read this to you. This is from Stanislav, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but just he goes by Stas. How Konstantinica is being stormed video. Since the beginning of the special military operation, the Russian army has stormed dozens of cities. During this time, our military has gained vast experience in urban combat, which is now being actively applied in the battle for Constantinople. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. By the way, urban combat is the worst. I never survived past the first building in my urban combat training, so I guess I wasn't very good at it. The enemy here hides in the apartments and the basements of multi-story buildings, firing from window openings and launching fight raids. Therefore, each house needs to be cleared separately to avoid leaving any survivors behind. The video shows the tactics of the stormtroopers of the 4th Separate Motor Rifle Brigade of the South Group of the forces for smoking out the enemy from the buildings. Reconnaissance UAVs remotely identify observation posts, firing positions in Ukrainian armed forces hideouts and buildings. Targets on the upper floors of the buildings are hit with strike drones and artillery. Often, just one accurate hit is needed to eliminate the enemy. The positions of the Ukrainian armed forces on the lower floors in the basements of the buildings are destroyed by stormtroopers using modified TM-62 anti-tank mines. They are thrown into rooms where the presence of the enemy has been confirmed. The explosion of 8 kilograms of explosives in a confined space is enough to ensure that no one can escape outside anymore, and we got that video. So I just wanted to read that because I found that very interesting. Dagnabbit. Thank God. Sometimes if you back out of the bookmarks out here in the forest, you don't have much of a connection. So we already did that. We did that. We did that. We did that. Well, now let's save that one. Okay, so if you didn't know, Larry Johnson and Pepe Escobar, their new channel is called Transition Protocol. I can't remember what their previous channel is that it got taken down. Who knows whether this one will get taken down. Let's get this one out of the way, and then we'll hit something on the way back. Disgusting. Representative Thomas Massie exposes a terrifying plan to commingle U.S. soldiers and intelligence with the IDF. He confirms Washington is plotting to pay benefits directly to the Zionist military. He warns this rogue alliance only drags America into endless wars. Now, if you didn't know, we pay, according to people that I've heard, we pay for Israelis' medical care. We pay all of their benefits, and we don't take care of Americans. It doesn't make sense. Let's watch Thomas Massie now.
But is the IDF going to get paid by the United States government benefits? I heard that was going to happen.
I've heard that they would have some kind of reciprocal or some kind of agreement. I think it's bad to commingle our soldiers, our technology, our retirement plans, our supply chains, our intelligence. I think that's a bad idea for the United States. I mean, if you're the most powerful country in the world, why would you adopt a junior partner with less than 10 million people?
And lots of liabilities.
Yeah. Nothing but getting us into wars.
Okay, and I wanted to add, while I'm getting back to this other post, is that Tom Cotton, he's an Israeli asset. Ted Cruz is an Israeli asset. I mean, they've come right out and said it. But I want to talk about Mark Levin for just 2 seconds. If you didn't know, he's turned on Trump. He was never a friend of Trump. He was cozying up to Trump, and I don't know why Trump lets these people get around him. He knows he should know they hate him. They're only doing, because he was doing what they wanted, which was trying to blow up Iran. Oh, I didn't even talk about it. Go to Dialogue Works. He's been putting up a lot of videos. The Iranians have released a lot of satellite imagery of the damage they've done to the U.S. bases. It's pretty unbelievable. I won't go into details about it because you can just go to his channel and he'll show you all the pictures. Just about about his last 3 videos, he's shown the pictures of the damage. The thing I don't understand is why Iran has not released the damage that they did to Israel. And if you didn't know, that's why we got this peace deal in the first place. Was Israel attacked Lebanon, and Iran was getting ready to light up Israel. I mean, they had everything locked and loaded. Israel might have gone nuclear because I think Iran was going to do some serious damage. So Trump, to save Israel, that's why he entered into that. But let's do this as the last post here. The 10 most embarrassing. Oh, I wanted to talk about the BioLabs real quick because we've been on Tulsi Gabbard, and this is getting back to the BioLabs. There were 40 in Ukraine. Think about that. Can you imagine if Russia and China had 40 BioLabs in Canada or in Mexico, or a combination of the two? You think we put up with that for 1 second? Can you blame the Russians for going into Ukraine? I don't get the American people. They still hate the Russians. They did what they had to do, man. They did what they had to do. So the 10 most embarrassing headlines in the BioLab scandal. The world was told repeatedly that no U.S. BioLabs existed in Ukraine. Such claims were disinformation from Russia, China, and from right-leaning people in the United States. That's what NBC, BBC, AFP, I don't know what AFP is, AP, and others told the planet repeatedly. But this week, U.S. Spy Chief Tulsi Gabbard admitted that there were BioLabs in Ukraine and elsewhere. They were U.S. funded, and they were experimenting with deadly viruses like Ebola and SARS. And also, I don't know if it's coincidental or not, we've got BioLabs in Africa too. And there's been an Ebola breakout in Africa. Are the two related? Who knows? Who knows? So also it became apparent that they existed. Many media companies switched to the highly imaginative narrative saying that the Pentagon was funding overseas biolabs experimenting on killer viruses for peace and health reasons. Because everyone knows the Pentagon is about peace and health. Check out these 10 headlines that media companies have surely praying have never been forgotten, and we got a video on that.
10 most embarrassing headlines in the BioLabs scandal. The US spy chief Tulsi Gabbard just revealed that the US did fund BioLabs in Ukraine and elsewhere, handling deadly viruses like Ebola and SARS. Today here, 10 headlines that certain media companies are almost certainly hoping and praying that everyone will have forgotten. We haven't. Number 10, NBC described the BioLabs as the, quote, non-existent BioLabs. These labs didn't even exist. That's what they told the world in 2022. Who invented the lie? As well as right-wing Americans, Russian and Chinese officials have pushed the theory, NBC said. Theory. Number 9. There is, quote, no evidence US funds biological weapons research in Ukraine, said the BBC. Moscow's claims about the Ukrainian labs were echoed by China this week, the BBC added. Number 8. Now let's go to PolitiFact, a major fact-checking company. China repeats false claim that US has biolabs in Ukraine, PolitiFact says. False. Number 7. Associated Press also are playing the blame game and finger-pointing at China. China amplifies unsupported Russian claim of Ukraine biolabs, its headline said. Number 6. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists said Russian media spreading disinformation about US bioweapons. So much for the scientists. Number 5. USA Today also has a fact-checking service, and they also said the BioLab story was part of a Russian disinformation operation. Now that report says that some labs existed, but they were funded by the Ukrainian government, not the US. This we now know to be untrue. It goes on to quote a group called Coda, which it describes as a non-profit media company. Coda says the BioLab story is a disinformation campaign and names Russia and China as teaming up to trick the world. What USA Today doesn't say is that Coda is not a news crew. It is a propaganda asset funded by the notorious National Endowment for Democracy, which is a CIA spin-off. Number 4, here's NewsGuard. That's a fact-checking group founded by Apple Daily's Gordon Krovitz. How Chinese state-run Facebook pages have served as megaphones for Russian disinformation, it says. Number 3, the UK Guardian wrote about the Ukrainian bioweapons lab myth. Number 2, Jen Psaki, press secretary at the White House in 2022, said the story was fake. She pointed the finger at Russia and China and predicted that a bioweapons attack was coming from that direction. And number 1. Now the number 1 title is jointly shared by every publication which said that, well, if the Pentagon was funding biolabs, they would be peaceful biolabs. Now the media who said this includes the BBC, Al Mayadeen, and others. So, for example, AFP Fact Check highlighted the Pentagon quote saying it was providing support for 46 peaceful Ukrainian laboratories. Because, as everyone knows, the Pentagon is all about peace, right? Peace all day and peace all night. That's what the Pentagon does, right, AFP? Anyway, here's the scary bit. If you look up this topic on Wikipedia, it has the fake story. Biolabs are a false story pushed by Russians and Chinese, it says. And of course, all the media articles and the Wikipedia pages, they'll all get scraped up and planted in the brains of AI programs. And that, boys and girls, is why you must never trust the media. Always check facts for yourself. Peace.
Okay, we'll get the rest on the way home. Maybe we'll put some Lego videos and a song at the end. I got to get back before it gets dark. Peace out. Stay free. Stay frosty. I remember now, since I've been doing the videos on my laptop, I back up about every other day, especially after every video I do a backup. With WinMerge, we've talked about that in the past. But one of the things I do back up also, because it is a laptop, I back up all the temporary files. Now, one thing I did notice was that DaVinci Resolve, if you just keep your projects clean, which is what I'm going to do with the server. See, I can have a lot more projects on my server, obviously, with 56 terabytes of archive and everything, and especially with those huge M2 drives. But if you delete a project, it does a good job of going out and cleaning up all those temporary files. In fact, I'd say it gets rid of all of them. So I'm not going to even worry about cleaning up, the temporary files at all. I'm going to let this DaVinci Resolve do its job. And then, of course, at the end of the year, when I rebuild the server, I've got all my notes. I don't do upgrades. I do fresh installs. So I'll do a complete fresh install of whatever the next version of Linux Mint is. Could be 22.4. Maybe they'll just call it 23. I don't know. But it's supposed to come out in January. I hope I'm still alive to do it. And then we'll, and that flushes all those temporary files anyway. Because, I don't, since I'm not backing them up, I won't have even a copy of them anywhere. I don't see any reason to do it. All right, just wanted to get that out of the way. If I think of something else, we'll tag it onto the video, but I think that's going to be it. All right, 3 things I wanted to add to the video. People are all over X saying, Iran won! Iran won! Nobody, pardon my French, freaking won! Everybody lost. We lost American soldiers. Iran lost a lot of people. The estimates I heard, 3,000. We blew up 160 little schoolgirls at the beginning of the war. We took out Iran's water desalination. It's all bullshit. Plus, I don't think there's a peace deal anyway. So I'm getting tired. I get so angry. I have to really control myself because I want to respond to these bleeping idiots, and say, look, nobody won, you freaking fool. The only thing that wins is peace. Let's just have peace. I'm tired of these endless wars for Israel. Israel, Israel, Israel. God dang it, this is the freaking United States. That was the first thing I wanted to get off my chest. And I want to defend Trump for a second. So he had a UFC cage match at the White House. All these commentators, some of them who I really respect and like, I won't name any names, they're going on about how unprofessional that is and how that's the stupidest thing a president could have ever done. Well, actually I kind of like it. Now, I didn't like the fact that Trump only brought in big money. He turned that into a profitable event. I think it was like $1 million a ticket to get in there to watch it, so only rich people got to go in there. Unlike Andrew Jackson, if you're not familiar with history, go back and read a book on Andrew Jackson. He was probably one of my favorite presidents. Everybody wants George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. Andrew Jackson was my hero. Not only was he a war hero, but he let anybody in the White House, man. Pig farmers. He turned that place upside down. All them rich people back then, they were going crazy having Andrew Jackson as a president. I thought that was freaking awesome. So yeah, I'm glad Trump had a UFC fight. I encourage him to, next time, invite some common folk rather than just your rich billionaire buddies, Trump, chump. Anyway, then we get into the video studio just real quick. What was it I wanted to talk about there? Oh, damn it, I'm going to have to add on another clip. It just blew right out of my head. All right, hold on.
Where does this all end? Where does this all end?
Gold screaming past 5,000 flat. Vault sealed tight, Fort Knox a faded black hat. 40 trillion and climbing, no end in sight. Printers still burning through the dead of night.
DC's dark empire feasts while the people go broke. Bombs flash on our screens like some cruel joke. But this time the fire's coming home to our door. The future they sold for another endless war. Tell me, where does this all end? Blood for oil, lies for the dollar again.
Tell me, where does this all end? Missiles rising, no peace to defend.
When the war comes home to the American. this all end?
Inflation's a blade, slicing deep through the bone, stealing from cribs while we're lost in our phones. Mothers in terror, digging graves in the sand. Mothers here folding flags in their tremblings. American coffins draped in red, white, and blue. Iranian flags on the fallen, torn families too. Sons shipped overseas, daughters lost to the blast. Little ones crying under skies turned to ash.
Why do the old men fight with our lives? Why do the missiles fall from our skies? We just wanna play, we just wanna dream, not bury our futures in their bloody scheme.
Boomers sold our tomorrow for their greedy today, grifting and grafting while they ship us away. Empty plates and empty skies, no hope in their game. They sacrifice the children for power and fame.
Fertilizer fields, now barren and dry. Strait of Hormuz choked, no ships in the sky. Prices exploding, crops wither and soon. Starvation creeping under a hungry moon. Millions facing famine in the coming days. Empty bellies of children while the war makers play. From Persian Gulf fire to the global plate, our future is starving for this empire's hate.
One spark in the strait and the whole region burned. Asia, China proxies, the fire returned. Oil to the moon, markets crashing in flame. Ukraine still smoldering, feeding the game. From 2 wars to 3, then the shadows of nukes. One away whispering, is this how Earth pukes? Last gasp for the children, just dust in the wind. A scorched earth legacy, no one left to forgive. We voted for Trump, the man who swore no more wars. Promised peace and borders, not carriers in the Gulf. But now it's ultimatums, clock is ticking fast. Threats of civilization dying, how'd it come to this cast? He started the strikes back in February's fire. Khamenei gone, but the chaos climbed higher. Pause the next hit for the Gulf King's plea. But the hawk in the skies won't let the people be free. Power's sweet poison, turn the fighter insane. Same old machine, running on children's pain.
Tell me, where does this all end?
Blood in the sand, no mercy to lend.
Tell me, where does this all end?
Missiles rising, empires pretend.
When the war comes home to the American children.
No beginning, no mend.
Tell me, where does this all end?
Mothers crying, fathers dying, skies tomorrow away. Endless wars for their grift, now we pay.
Wake up, America, before the sirens wail. Your babies, your future, sold down the trail.
Where does this all end?
Where does this all end?